Today I want to share with you guys my argument for why I do not think we are going to go to the Great War inside DLC 4 for Black Ops 4, and this is something that I have heard more than anything, and this is probably the most common thing to say maybe of all time, at least during Black Ops 4, is that in DLC 4 we're going to the Great War, especially in my comment section. I mean, even in videos that have nothing to do with the storyline, they'll still somehow find a reason to bring up that we're going to the Great War in DLC 4, but regardless, I do want to challenge this in a couple different ways, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be giving you guys a counter idea to where we're going to be going, and I'm not saying that I know this for a fact and we're not going to Great War or anything like that. I mean, we still could, but I just find it a little bit doubtful. I mean, really, the evidence you would think is kind of against me, because I mean, in the last two ending cutscenes to the last two Ether maps that we've had have both pretty much flat out said we're going to the Great War. I mean, Alpha Omega's ending cutscene, Samantha told Eddie we're going to the Great War. Before that, we had Classified's ending cutscene, and what did Nikolai tell Ultimus? That we're going to go to the Great War. So it would seem like it's against me. I guess the evidence is against me, but at the same time, I think there are some reasons to doubt that we are going to the Great War. And this brings me to my first problem with it, and this is more of a question to the people who think we're going to the Great War. And this is the first one, but which Great War are we going to? Because if you guys didn't know, there for some reason are a ton of Great Wars for who knows what reason, and if you guys don't believe me, let me just name off a couple. So first one we have is the one at the beginning of time-ish area, and this was the Great War between the Keepers and the Corrupted Keepers, and this was fought out, and then the Keepers defeated the Corrupted Keepers, banished them to beneath creation, and then they became the Apothekins. So that's that Great War. After that, we have the Great War during the medieval times, and this was the Great War between what I believe to be the humans with Primus against the Apothekins, and of course that Great War ended with the humans with Primus defeating the Apothekins, and they went and cleansed the world and all that stuff that happened there. After that, we also have World War I, which was considered a Great War and was called a Great War in Origins, but I don't think anybody thinks that's a Great War we're talking about. Also, Revelations has been called a Great War, but you know, again, I don't think that's one mainly anybody's thinking about. So there is one last Great War I do want to bring up, and I don't know what this one is, honestly, and this was the one in the intro cutscene to Alpha Omega, and I made a video going into a lot of depth of this and why it's really weird and how it doesn't even seem like a Great War, but the one in the intro cutscene to Alpha Omega, that seems like an entirely different Great War, so there's a lot of different Great Wars we could be going to. So that's what I just want to ask you. Which Great War are we going to? And I would assume most people, when they say we're going to go fight the Great War, they're talking about the Great War that everybody knows, and this is the one where Primus fought the Apothekins, and that's fine, but regardless, even if you say that's the case, I have another question for you. Why? Why would we go fight the Great War all over again? Because last I checked, Primus won the Great War. They won. I mean, so what are we going to go do now? We're going to go help them win harder? I mean, what? I just don't really know exactly why this would be something that we would need to do. Like, how would this help us in our goal? I mean, maybe fighting a different Great War would be more useful. Maybe the original Great War we could go fight between the Keepers and the Corrupted Keepers. I mean, that one would make a little bit more sense in our goals, but that kind of brings me into what our goals actually are, because what it seems like our goals are going into DLC 4 were told to us by Maxis, because he said that mainly we're trying to purge the world of all corruption, that being Element 115, the Ether, Argartha, and all that. We're trying to purge the world of all of this, and of course this was going to lead to maybe resetting all of the universe or all the multiverse, but that's a different video for a different day. But the point is that we're trying to purge the world of all of this corruption, and the question is, how are we going to do this in the Great Wars? I mean, why would we do this in the Great Wars is the question, because I mean, let's just say we're fighting in the Great War everyone's familiar with, the medieval Great Wars that Primus fought in. Okay, what are we going to do there? I mean, I just don't really know. Unless there is something about this Great War, or one of the Great Wars that we don't know of, then, I mean, currently we have no reason to believe by fighting in this Great War how it's going to help us achieve our goal of purging the world of corruption. So I don't know. That's kind of the problem. And honestly, what seems much more likely to me is that we'll fight the Monty that has already gone through all the Great Wars. And what makes sense is that we're going to go fight Monty just by himself at the house, because why go through all the effort of fighting a war where you could just attack Monty directly? It just doesn't make sense, because currently the Apothkins are trapped under Alteration, the Shadow Man's trapped in the Summoning Key, and Dr. Monty seems like he's all by himself. So it would make sense if we just attack Dr. Monty and all our other problems are kind of taking care of themselves, and then we could continue to go reset all of time. So it just seems much more likely that we'll just avoid a war altogether. But regardless, if you guys still don't really see why I'm saying all this and really getting why I don't believe that we are going to the Great War, at least in a major way, I have one last thing to say to you. This one is the one that I think people should take into consideration. But what does Treyarch love to do as just storytellers? What is their favorite thing to do? To me, it seems like their favorite thing is to subvert expectations. That's like their all-time favorite thing. So what would be more obvious of what Treyarch would do than to just keep telling us Great War, we're going to the Great War, we're going to the Great War, and then all of a sudden when we get to DLC 4, there's no Great War. I mean, it just seems like something Treyarch would do, because they seem like they're one to kind of try to subvert expectations. Or maybe what's going to happen, we're going to fight a new Great War or something like that, and that would another way subvert our expectations. So, you know, there's just a lot of reasons why I don't see that we're going to be fighting the Great War in DLC 4. Regardless, all I'm saying here is that I don't think we're going to the Great War. What I think would be much more likely is that the Great War is going to play a part into all this. Maybe it's going to be in the background. Maybe they're going to do it between the maps. Maybe we're going to see something like that in the ending cutscene or something like that. But I just don't see us in the map fighting the Great War. But anyways, that's my argument. I'd love to hear what you guys think of it. Do you guys agree, disagree? Just tell me your opinions and thoughts down in the comments. Of course, I'm not saying anything for certain. I'm not saying you're dumb for believing one idea or another, but I'm just giving you guys an argument for why I don't think we're going to the Great War in DLC 4. But that's about it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, go ahead, do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, bell, share, and all that great stuff. But I'm going to go and I'll catch you guys next stream, video, or whatever it may be. But laters, guys.